or when he stole our nuke codes and took them
Trump did not steal the nuke codes.
to Mar-a-Lago.
Trump never stole the nuke codes. He had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago left over from when he was president, okay, in a skiff in his house. The nuke codes, the gold codes, are changed every single day, okay? You can't just swipe the nuke codes up and run off with them, and now you got the nuke codes and you can launch nukes whenever you want. First of all, you need the football. You can't launch nukes without the football, first of all. And second of all, you need updated codes.
Of course, this woman can win. She is brilliant. She is pro-democracy. She advocates for everybody in the United States, not just cult members. And I have to say to everybody, think about it like this. There are a lot of Americans who are in the MAGA cult, and they cannot be reasoned with. They are completely brainwashed.
Yep, that's me. That's me for sure. I cannot be reasoned. There is nothing you can do to convince me that Joe Biden was a viable candidate, that Joe Biden was a good candidate, that Joe Biden was good for America. Nothing. You can't reason with me. Nope, not on that. Absolutely not.
They are completely radicalized, but that is not the majority. Right. The majority of us, whether you're a leftist in the center or a Democratic mainstay, we have to do what the country of France just did.
Huh? We have to do what the country of France just did? Are you fucking kidding me? That is insane. That is insane.
We have to band together and beat and defeat Trumpism and send a global message that this Heritage Foundation, Project 2025.
Again, Trump has his own agenda. It's called Agenda 47, where he lays out all of the things that he supports, right? He's not involved with Project 2025. He doesn't support Project 2025. He has again and again and again come out and said that he doesn't support many of the things that are in Project 2025. Unrelated to Project 2025, he's denounced many of the things that are in it, not even addressing it. He doesn't support a national abortion ban. He doesn't support abortion, but understands that he doesn't have the legal authority to dictate whether people can get abortions or not. The federal government doesn't hold that authority. It's illegal. Nothing short of a constitutional convention could change that. That power lies with the Supreme Court, the interpreters of the Constitution. Joe Biden doesn't have the authority to rule on abortion. Donald Trump doesn't have the authority to rule on abortion. He believes that it is a state's issue because it is. That's how it was framed in the Constitution. Actually, abortion wasn't framed in the Constitution. That's exactly why it's a state's issue. The 10th Amendment very clearly says that anything that's not outlined in the Constitution is delegated to the states.
Bullshit is not going to fly here, because the last time we had a female on the ballot, she won the popular vote, but because of the Electoral College,
yeah,
Trump gets in.
Yeah. That's how elections work. Just because you win the popular vote doesn't mean you win the election. You also have to win the majority of electoral votes.
And Trump and the Heritage Foundation groomed.
Trump is not working with the Heritage Foundation.
Supreme Court picks, all three of them.
That's what you do when you're the president. When Supreme Court justices die or resign, you appoint new ones, okay? That's what happens when you're the president and you're dealing with the Supreme Court. That's how it works, okay? I heard a lot of people when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died saying, well, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's last wishes, her last requests were that Trump wouldn't pick a Supreme Court justice. So you want to leave a vacancy on the Supreme Court for the next 2 years? Do you know why there's 9 Supreme Court justices? There is 9 Supreme Court justices because 9 is an odd number, okay? That means that the Supreme Court can't get deadlocked because there's 9 justices. There will always be more on the opposing or on the supporting side than on the opposing side. Meaning they can't get deadlocked. They can't have an even split. They can't get hung. That's why there's 9 justices. You want Trump to just leave 8 justices on the court and make it physically impossible for them to do anything for 2 years? You want him to just leave vacancies. If people die or resign, Trump, as the president of the United States, is obligated to place new people on that Supreme Court, just like Joe Biden did with Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Lied to the American public and took away women's rights. And
Trump didn't take away women's rights. Okay, first, abortion's not a right, first of all. And second of all, Trump didn't do that. The Supreme Court did. The interpreters of the Constitution did that.
We are not going to let that happen again. And
it already happened. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do about it. Abortion is a state's issue, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it short of a constitutional convention. In which case, you'd need all of the states to agree to amend the Constitution either in favor of abortion or against abortion, which isn't going to happen because they all disagree.
Every sane, decent, and moral American needs to unite around Vice President Kamala Harris so that she can win 4 years of Democratic power so that we can fix and impeach these justices. And
you're going to impeach the Supreme Court justices? That's the platform. That's what you're supporting. You're supporting impeaching Supreme Court justices and destroying checks and balances. That's what you want. And you're claiming that you're rallying around democracy. But we're going to impeach Supreme Court justices who have done nothing illegal except their job, which isn't illegal. You're going to impeach them because you disagree with them. Yeah? You're going to impeach Supreme Court justices because you disagree with them. They haven't done anything illegal. They've done their job. You want to impeach them for no reason other than you disagree. Okay.
Really
democracy.
Send a message to the world that American democracy is here to stay.
Absolutely.
And in the way she ends that sentence is just hilarious.
Going back to her qualifications, she is thoughtful. She is well-reasoned. She has been...
Is she?
In politics for many years. She's a former prosecutor. So on one side, you have a former prosecutor, then you have a convicted criminal, convicted fraudster. I think the contrast...
Convicted fraudster.
Is so clear and transparent that one candidate has the best interests of the American people in mind, and one candidate is only for himself. And I particularly am excited.
Yeah, we do know that. One candidate is only for themselves. Her name is Kamala Harris.
About Kamala Harris, not only because she's female.
One candidate is for the American people, and his name is Donald J. Trump.
And a minority, but because she is so strong on women.
Drop the identity. Like, nobody cares that she's a woman or a minority. Nobody gives a shit.
Rights, because as we know, Trump and J.D. Vance are both no abortion at the time of conception.
And both of them acknowledge that it is a state's issue, and they legally cannot institute a national abortion ban. Trump opposes a national abortion ban, not because he agrees with abortion, but because it is illegal to institute a national abortion ban or make abortion legal nationally. It is illegal. The president does not hold the legal authority to make such a law, nor does Congress. The federal government does not possess that authority. It is a state's issue.
So I think the contrast for that is clear. Her support of the LGBTQIA plus community is...
Donald J. Trump was the first president in U.S. history to ever be elected in favor of gay marriage. First president ever. Not Obama, not Clinton. It was Donald J. Trump. He was the first president in United States history to, at the time of his election, be pro-gay marriage.
It's clear. I couldn't be more thrilled.
So one kind of fun sideshow to this is the freak out of the right-wing media industrial complex, because they have been beating the drum for 6 months.
What the hell does that mean?
That Biden's too old, he can't run, yak, yak, blah, blah, ignoring all of the crazy, dementia-ridden, senile things that Donald Trump says about Hannibal Lecter, sharks, boats, all this crazy stuff, right? But Democrats are held to a higher standard, and thank God that we are. Right.
No, they're not. They absolutely are not. The entire establishment is behind Democrats. They are not held to a higher standard. Joe Biden, who could barely form a coherent sentence for 3 years, had the full support of the majority of the media. He had the full support of universities. He had the full support of young people. Conservatives were censored when they spoke out against him. Bullshit. Democrats were held to a higher standard. Conservatives were absolutely, positively held to a higher standard. My TikTok account was banned 70 times. For what? Nothing. I emailed their community manager and they told me time and time again that I did nothing wrong. Okay, but somebody at TikTok was banning me 70 times. They'd reinstate my account and a week later they'd ban it again. Why? Because I'm talking about Joe Biden. Lots of people were censored on Meta. Okay, Republicans, conservatives are absolutely held to a higher standard than Democrats. They are censored. The media does not support them. The establishment does not support them. Okay, conservatives are held to a much higher standard. Trump is criticized much more heavily by the mainstream media than Joe Biden ever has been. If the mainstream media kept the same energy for Joe Biden that they had for Donald Trump, Joe Biden never would have won that election. Okay. Never would have happened. They would have gotten 3 clips of him stumbling over his own words or a set of stairs, and it would have been over. Okay? They would have aired the poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids everywhere, or him calling a bunch of black kids roaches, and it would have been donezo for Joe Biden. Hey Cam, do you feel like TikTok politics has lost hype in 2020? We had a lot more creators and even collab accounts like the Republican Hype House. Yeah, no, I mean, it definitely has. But the reason for that isn't because people aren't excited about the election or because people don't care. The reason for that is because conservatives were totally like absconded off of TikTok, and they've lost the motivation to continue making content there. It was undoubted, totally blatant and in-your-face censorship. The day that Donald Trump got sort of wiped from the face of the internet and banned on every social media platform, every conservative account that I know fell right after. Mine did. Topher's account, actually I don't know if Topher's account got banned. Tyler's account got banned. All of my friends in the conservative media, conservative movement, they got their accounts banned on TikTok. It was very blatant and obvious. And it wasn't just like once, it was like they'd make a new account, stick to the rules, like not do anything wrong, banned. They'd get their account back banned, live stream banned, comments reported. What's up, Malka? How's it going?
Thank God that we are held to a higher standard because we're going to get a fantastic candidate. But I want to show you and the viewer how badly they're freaking out on Fox. Here is psychopath and very unfuckable Trump sycophant Stephen Miller.
He may be more unfuckable than Ted.
Nobody wants to have sex with you. I'm so sorry. Both of you. Not a single human being wants to have sex with either of you. I'm so sorry. Nobody. Literally not a single person.
They held a primary. People, they had ballots. They filled out circles. They went to the voting booths. They spent money on advertisements. And as President Trump said, the Republican Party spent tens of millions of dollars running against Joe Biden. Now they just woke up one morning and said, never mind, we're canceling the entire primary. We're getting rid of our candidate, and we're pretending the election has never even happened, and we're going to let donors handpick a new nominee. They're publicly admitting that they are an oligarchy. They are not running a democracy. They are not running a representative republic. This is an oligarchy controlled by business interests, and the Democratic Convention is the private corporation that represents those business interests.
So let's just break down what Stephen Miller just said real quick. Joe Biden won the Democratic primary. He received 87% of Democrat primary votes. I think it was like 16 million votes total. Okay. The closest person behind him, I forget the name of the person, had like 4% of the vote. 87% to 4%. Okay. So after Joe Biden won the primary, Republicans, just as Democrats run ads against Trump, spent their budget on running ads against Joe Biden. They were campaigning against Joe Biden, not against Kamala Harris. And then 3 months from the election, Democrats coerced Joe Biden to drop out of the race and allow Kamala Harris to run. Okay? So now, Republicans are millions of dollars in the hole, running ads against Joe Biden and not against Kamala Harris. And now they have to think up a new strategy 3 months away from the election, and they have to start running ads against Kamala, campaigning against Kamala, not against Biden. And again, Democrats do the same thing. They run ads against Trump because that's what they're campaigning against Trump. So they've essentially just screwed the RNC out of millions of dollars. So that's what Stephen Miller is saying.
This is as full frontal an attack on American democracy as we've ever seen in the history of America's major political parties.
Okay, so first and foremost, it is especially rich that he is acting as though the Democrats are subverting democracy when
They are.
stormed the
Joe Biden won the primary and they coerced him to leave.
Capitol, and he still has not admitted that he
You know how many primary votes Kamala Harris got? 0. Not 1.
lost the election of 2020. And here's the difference between Democrats and the faux beta male MAGA Republicans.
You know how many times Democrats rejected election results? Every single time since 2000. Al Gore did it in 2000. Hillary Clinton did it in 2016. Every single time Democrats have lost an election since 2000, they have rejected election results. Every single presidential election.
When Hillary Clinton lost, she got up the next morning and conceded. And she went to Trump's
She got up and she conceded. and she let Donald Trump in the White House. Donald Trump also, by the way, let Joe Biden in the White House. But Hillary Clinton, to this day, continues to claim that the 2016 election was rigged and that Trump worked with Russia. To this day, still claims that it was a rigged election.
Inauguration, which was probably one of the most painful things she's ever done. But she sat on that stage and she watched him get sworn in with all of the other Democrats. When Trump lost, he tucked and rolled after he had all of his crazy
Yeah, a lot of people left just because there were so many bans in 2020. I mean, it basically became TikTok became a place that was basically inhospitable for conservatives. It was impossible for them to make content there. And it's pretty much getting that way now, except they don't ban your account. They just make it impossible for you to reach your viewers. So like a lot of my videos, I'll post them. I have 600,000 followers on TikTok, which was a pretty active audience up until, I don't know, January maybe. January I had a video with 10 million. I actually had like 2 videos with 10 million views. I was reaching a huge audience, much larger than my actual follower count. And now my views, I struggle to get past 10,000 views. It's ridiculous. I don't even reach 10% of my followers. So yeah, I don't even see your videos even though I follow you. Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous.
followers literally spray feces all over the Capitol like unhinged
Where are you getting
lunatics.
this from?
And then he tucked and rolled and didn't even take part in the peaceful transfer of power. So don't try to advocate for us, because I voted for Biden in both primaries, in both the 2020 primary and the 2024 primary.
Then you should be more pissed off than anybody about what just happened.
And I am fine that he stepped down. And here's why. We all saw what we saw on that debate stage. And the Democrats.
And here we go again. You're telling me that for the very first time you had an epiphany during the debate that, oh man, well, maybe Joe Biden does have cognitive. You're telling me that is the first time. That is the first time you noticed that Joe Biden had cognitive issues was on the debate stage a couple weeks ago. If that was the first time you noticed he had cognitive issues, you shouldn't have been voting. I am so sorry. You should not have been voting. And you shouldn't vote in this election either. If you are so ignorant to the world of politics, if you pay so little attention to politics that on that debate stage a few weeks ago was the first time ever that you noticed that Joe Biden was in cognitive decline, you have a serious fucking problem on your hands and you should not be voting in US elections. People who are so ignorant to politics should not be voting in elections. And you shouldn't be talking about it on your podcast either.
Hold our party and our country to a higher standard, because what we saw was a man who is aging, and that concerned us because we know.
Again, if that's the first time you noticed that, you have a problem on your hands. If the first time you noticed Joe Biden was aging was on that debate stage, you have a problem on your hands and you should not be voting in elections.
What happens? You can't unage. So he passed the torch. Did Mitch McConnell or Josh Hawley or any of these right-wing sycophants deal with Trump when they could have, after he tried to interfere with the Ukrainian war via blackmail?
Yep, never happened. Perfect. So cool. Check this out. I got the transcript of first of all, the Ukrainian war wasn't going on at that time, so you're brain dead for that. Second of all, I have the transcript of the call right here. Tried to, there's nothing about blackmail in here, and that wasn't the accusation either. The accusation with that impeachment was that Trump did quid pro quo with Vladimir Zelensky, that he tried to get money out of Zelensky or something, or whatever the hell it was. There's nothing in here about money. It's a very lukewarm conversation where Vladimir Zelensky is basically just kissing Trump's ass so he can get support. That there's no quid pro quo. I've read the whole thing. There's nothing in here. And that's exactly why Trump was acquitted in the Senate when they impeached him for this. Okay? And again, the Ukraine war was not going on at this time.
Or when he stole our nuke codes and took them
Trump did not steal the fucking nuke codes.
to Mar-a-Lago.
Trump never stole the nuke codes. He had classified documents at Mar-a-Lago left over from when he was president, okay, in a skiff in his house, because every president has a skiff built into their house when they become president, but he didn't have the nuke codes, okay? And even if he did have the nuke codes, like, that would be best case scenario if he had the nuke codes, right? Because the nuke codes, the gold codes, are changed every single day, okay? You can't just swipe the nuke codes up and run off with them, and now you got the nuke codes and you can launch nukes whenever you want. First of all, you need the football. You can't launch nukes without the football, first of all. And second of all, you need updated codes. The gold codes change every single day and are randomly generated. So, yeah.
Where he entertains fascists like Viktor Orban or has lunch with Nazis. No, they didn't deal with him, and they're going to carry him to term, and he's going to get beat by a brilliant black woman, because we are going to just beat this drum from now till kingdom come, so that it is President Kamala Harris that beats the old, senile, convicted felon, cult leader, loser, total loser, has never won a popular vote ever. You want to know why? Because he's not popular.
He's not popular, and yet he received more votes than any president in U.S. history. Both times, okay? Joe Biden and Donald Trump both received more votes than any president ever, okay? They both received more votes than Obama. They both received more votes than Clinton. They both received more votes than Donald Trump received in his previous election. Okay? They were both very popular. Actually, I would say that Trump was very popular. I don't think that Biden was very popular. I think that Trump was simultaneously extremely popular and very unpopular at the same time, and thus people voted for Joe Biden to get Trump out.
I personally take a lot of joy in the fact that the 2024 election, he will lose to a black female like Fonnie Willis, Letitia James, Tanya Chutkan, all the black
What was that last one?
females that are in control of his life when he is a misogynistic bigot.
How many shots do you think this woman took before she fired this podcast up? I'm going to guess at least 4.
So that gives me a personal sense of joy. But I, too, am just flabbergasted that he would have the balls. Stephen Miller would have the absolute balls to go on TV and talk about Democrats being an oligarchy when Trump says straight up, I want to be a dictator.
Never said that. Let's fire up the clip. Trump did not say he wants to be a dictator. He made a joke and said, I'll be a dictator on day one. I'm going to drill, and shut the border down. If that makes me a dictator, then I'll be a dictator. It was a joke. And by the way, drilling for oil and closing the border doesn't make you a dictator.
Tonight, 4 Republican presidential candidates are taking part in a debate, but it's the frontrunner who won't be on stage who's back.
Have any plans whatsoever, if reelected president, to abuse power, to break the law, to use the government to go after people?
You mean like they're using right now?
Pressed later.
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's not retribution.
I'm gonna be, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
A joke. I'm going to drill, and close the border down. Other than that, I'm not a dictator. If that makes me a dictator, then I'm a dictator. Obviously, it doesn't make you a dictator. It was a joke. They continue to take that quote out of context.
I love Kim Jong-un. I love Putin. I love Viktor Orban. Like, the hypocrisy.
He never said that he loves Putin, and he never said that he loves Kim Jong-un. He does the same thing with them that he does with everybody else. I know them very well. They respect me. I have a very good relationship. Same thing he does with literally everyone. He never says, I love them.
It is so jaw-dropping. It's unbelievable.
All right, Seth, now show the tweet I'm going to read to everybody, or Truth Social. Donald Trump says, so we are forced to spend time and money on fighting crooked Joe Biden. He polls badly after having a terrible debate and quits the race. Now we have to start all over again. Shouldn't the Republican Party be reimbursed for fraud? And
They should be.
Everybody around Joe, including his doctors and the fake news media, knew he was not capable of running for or being president. Just asking. And what I have to say to that is, wah, somebody called.
Oh, right. So Trump's a fraudster. So if Trump does fraud, bad. If the Democrat Party does fraud and Joe Biden does fraud, good. It's wham, deal with it, cope, right? Yeah.
them a wambulance. I mean, it is unbelievable how the irony is lost on him that all of these crazy people around him, including his vice presidential candidate, had crystal clear clarity on how dangerous and psychotic and demented this candidate is, but they're also blinded by
JD Vance came out and told everyone that he was mistaken about Trump, that he was wrong about Trump, and that he supports Trump. People can change their views and be mistaken. So JD Vance obviously doesn't still hold those views, or he wouldn't be Trump's running mate.
the right now, immediate, impulsive ambition of power, that they just go along with this, and the rhetoric coming out.
JD Vance came out and said that he was mistaken about Trump a long time ago. This isn't like new just so he could be the VP, and if it was just new, Trump wouldn't have chosen him.
Of the Heritage Foundation, which has
And Heritage Foundation has nothing to do with Trump.
groomed all of these people, including Donald Trump. He's trying to distance himself from them, but do not buy it. The rhetoric coming out is the exact same of what came out in the early stages of Nazi Germany.
Bullshit. Bullshit. I hate it when people do this. When they try to make parallels between things that are happening in a democratic country and democratic candidates, people who are not Hitlerites or fascists, and they try to, well, this is actually Nazi Germany coming back. Oh my God, Trump is Hitler. They do it every time. Okay? Did Trump seize the government in 2016? Become a dictator, an authoritarian oligarch? Did he become a dictator? No. No, he didn't. If he was going to do it, he would have done it while he was in office, not waited for another election and the risk of him losing that election to do it. He would have done it already. Okay? He's not Hitler. He's not a dictator. He's not a totalitarian. You're diluting what it means to be Adolf Hitler, what it means to be a Nazi, and what it means to be a fascist. If you continue to dilute them, it means nothing. Somebody who's young and doesn't understand the impact of Nazism on Europe might look at Trump, hear everybody calling him a Nazi, calling him a Hitlerite, calling him Adolf Hitler, and like what he's doing, think we're in a good position while Trump's president, and then think, well, if this is what Hitler did, if this is what Nazis were like, you know, maybe Nazis weren't so bad. Maybe they were actually good, right? Okay, so stop doing it.
In Hitler's rise, there is zero question. The rhetoric is completely.
Trump's rise is nothing like Hitler's rise, okay? Hitler wasn't a wealthy businessman who transitioned into politics. Hitler had a very strong following, but having a strong following doesn't make you Hitler. There are lots of people with very strong followings. It doesn't make you Hitler. Joe Biden has a very strong following. Harry Sisson is a very strong proponent of Joe Biden. There are people head over heels for Joe Biden, however the hell that happened. Okay? Doesn't make you Hitler. Joe Biden is not Adolf Hitler. There is no similarities, almost no significant similarities between Donald Trump's rise and Adolf Hitler's rise. Adolf Hitler threw himself into politics as a nobody. Donald Trump was already well known. He transitioned from business into politics.
Parallel, they are unifying against an identified threat in Trump and Heritage Foundation.
Hitler was also socialist, and he used the catalyst of working class struggles to propel him into politics and make himself a notable political figure. Donald Trump never did that. He's not a socialist. He's not a national socialist. He's a capitalist, a businessman. Adolf Hitler believed that capitalism was a grimy invention of the Jews. That's what Adolf Hitler said. Okay, that's what lots of Nazis believed, National Socialists. They believed that the Jews were grimy capitalists, and that was one of the reasons why they hated them so much.
It is immigrants and also women having control over their bodies. And they will not stop there.
No.
They are already beating the drum against the LGBTQ plus community.
Again, Donald Trump was the first president in U.S. history to ever be elected in favor of gay rights.
Trans community, and it is.
Zohar says, I used to be a Democrat. Welcome to the good side, man. Welcome to the good side.
Disgusting to me that people who live in a community around these people can vote against them. The most moral thing you can do, if you're a Christian, if you consider yourself a decent person, if you consider yourself some form of, a spiritual person seeking serenity, the most moral thing you can do is vote and always stand with those that are the most marginalized.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, especially if you're implying that Kamala Harris is the most marginalized person. Kamala Harris spent most of her career locking black people up for minor drug offenses. She spent most of her career elonging the sentence length, the duration of sentence for those people that she locked up for minor drug offenses. Okay? Kamala Harris is not the most marginalized person. Kamala Harris had a long political career, as you've already laid out, as a prosecutor. She's a very privileged person, okay? And the idea that you should just vote for somebody because you think they're marginalized is the most brain-dead idea I've ever heard in my entire life. Just because somebody is marginalized doesn't mean they're a good person to vote for. If you want to vote to help people who you view as marginalized, and to be clear, I don't think that anyone, there might be some small instances where people are marginalized in this country, but in most cases, the majority of people in this country are not marginalized regardless of the color of their skin. Okay, if you want to vote for somebody who's actually going to help marginalized people, vote for a competent leader. Somebody who will actually do the things to help those marginalized people, okay? Don't vote for somebody just because they're a minority. That is ridiculous. It doesn't make them competent, it doesn't make them a good leader, and it sure as hell doesn't mean they're going to help other minorities.
Because the rest of the world will constantly pick on them. And that's what the entire MAGA movement is. It is white men with an oligarchy who is now the Silicon Valley bros, because they seek benefits of not having to pay taxes. And all of that does is just further marginalize communities. And it is incredibly dangerous. But right now, the Democratic Party is uniting leftist, centrist, Democratic mainstays. We all have to unite around Kamala Harris. The difference between us and MAGA is we do not have to agree with everything on the party platform.
Oh, but Republicans are held to that standard. So you just went on a rant a couple minutes ago about how Democrats are held to a higher standard, but you say that Republicans are all guilty of Project 2025 because the Heritage Foundation released it, and because that was released, and because the Heritage Foundation is a large conservative think tank, that Republicans must agree with everything that's on it. But Democrats are cool to just not agree with things that are on the party platform. Republicans are held to not even the party. Project 2025 isn't even the party platform. We're held to the standard of everything that's in Project 2025. But Democrats, you don't have to agree with everything that's on the party platform. You can still vote for them. It doesn't mean just because you vote for them that you agree with everything on their party platform. But Republicans are held to Project 2025 as if it is the gold absolute standard of Republicanism, despite the Heritage Foundation not being the Republican Party and Donald J. Trump having his own platform, Agenda 47, where he's actually taken all of the things he agrees with and listed them out for you. Okay? He's listed all of the things that he agrees with out for you, and you can use that to discern which parts of Project 2025 he agrees with, which parts of Project 2025 he doesn't agree with. He wrote it all out for you, but you're still pushing Project 2025 because you're an idiot.
And we have critical thinking, and we can discern this is the gist of what I want to do to be able to continue the things that I care about and what I fight for. But let me just tell everybody, you can get a preview of what Trumpism looks like when it's taken.
We already got a preview. We got it for 4 years. It was great. Gas was cheaper, groceries were cheaper, life was better. We got a preview for 4 years. We don't need whatever your bullshit preview is going to be.
All the way to term, and that is our state, the state of Oklahoma, which is wildly homophobic, wildly transphobic. They are institutionalizing these things in forms of institutional bigotry in this state. They have made it legal. If you see protesters and you happen to run over them in your car, you cannot be prosecuted.
Literally not true. Just not true. And to be honest, if protesters are in the streets, blocking the streets, and they get hit, I don't think that you should be prosecuted for hitting them. You're not allowed to prosecute. You're not allowed to protest in the streets. If you are blocking the flow of traffic and you get hit by a car, that's on you. I don't feel bad for you. Congratulations.
Executed. They have passed a law, our governor, to where it is legal to commit
Again, not true.
homicide against somebody exercising their constitutional right.
It is not your constitutional right to stand in the street with a sign. That is illegal.
Not to mention women who need medical care are bleeding out in hospital parking lots
Literally not true.
because the doctors are too afraid to treat them.
Not true.
And they have no issue with young teenagers who have been
Literally name one time that happened.
raped by family members carrying those
The majority of states that have criminalized abortion make rape exceptions. They also, every single state makes an exception for if the mother's life is in danger.
babies to term. That's what Trumpism looks like in these states. And it is serious, and it is serious as all get out. But I want to leave everybody with one final thing. We know Beyonce and the Beehive are going to roll out because Black women always go hard in the paint for this country. They always do, every single election. But I want to call on Taylor Swift because you have a global audience full of young girls that need
I'm so sorry. Taylor Swift is not watching your podcast.
access to birth control, young access that have a right to have privacy with their doctors and gynecological appointments. And I'm calling on you, Taylor. The best thing you can do for these girls that pay you and come to see you and experience joy and a sense of companionship and camaraderie at your concerts is for you to fight for all of these young fans of yours to have a right to birth control, to IVF, and to...
Congratulations. She's not watching your podcast. Let's go to Kamala.